and system admin perspective, and you can see how easy it is to access the data points, gather the data, and really put together some solid wave planning, solid analysis of the infrastructure, and really enable you to onboard yourself into the AWS environment in a much easier fashion. So as we get started here, as you can see, the application itself is web-based, so it's very easy on the eyes and easy to manage. And you, as soon as you start to log into the environment, you'll see that you're immediately, on the front dashboard, you're immediately introduced to the console and how to immediately start to probe the environment and gather all the data points necessary for successful transformation. So once you log in and, of course, install the product, there is no data points, obviously. This is a fresh install. And we're going to walk you through, how we gather the data points and how they are relevant to transformation. So right here, as I mentioned, is a new install, no data. But at the end of the process, this will be populated. So as of right now, this is our initial subnet scan. So we're creating subnet scans, which is the first step in the collection. This will automatically start to populate every node on the environment, whether it's a Windows server, Linux server, Unix server, router, so forth. And then that's immediately exported into a manageable CSV output. So once that CSV output is created, that gives you the insight that we were discussing to every node on the subnets. So once we identify all the nodes, then at that point we take it a step further and begin to create a universal credential or put in the credential provided by the client, and then we apply it to the CSV. So in this case, we're going to go back to the central console, and once we get to there, we create the new job. We will go in there and then actually go to the Manage Credential function. And this will allow us to, once again, create the credential that will to enable us to bulk credential to all these servers at once. So that's one of the advantages of automation. So we're going to create this profile, and once this profile is created, and we're going to create one for Windows, one for Linux in this case, we're going to allow you to authenticate en masse to your own infrastructure. That cuts down on hours and hours of individual manual collection right there. So within hours, you literally have all the infrastructure details of the entire environment, which is a huge undertaking when you're considering a manual process. So in my past experience in working in transformation projects, it's usually between 8 and 10 individuals crawling the environment with spreadsheets and interviewing and taking tons of hours away from your technology team. What you're able to do is really drop the technology in the environment with as little as one person and discover thousands and thousands of servers in their environment. In this case, we're just going to populate just the name of the credential. That's a pretty critical point here. We're not putting passwords and clear text in any type of environment. This is simply the credential name that we created. And then right now, we're going to upload this entire subnet scan into the console. So once again, in the previous step, we just put the credential in, and many times the customer puts the credential in. We do not even know the password to the environment, but that does not prohibit us from, once again, doing a mass collection and enabling the client. So at this point, you'll see the credentials process has begun. And then now you'll see that this current status of discovery initiated. We're doing a mass authentication, mass data collection through every server in the environment that's currently in scope. And that's a critical component there. So, and you can see how immediately, we're refreshing it. You can see what the status is as it continues to go. And as you can see at the time left in the scan, you can actually, time yourself on how long you want this to continue. So at this point, the process has been completed. And now we're going to go pick up some servers off our current list of servers that we've already collected. And then we're going to compare them side by side. So here's some Linux machines, here's some Windows machines. And so we can show you the kind of depth and what the reporting looks like from each server. So right now, once again, we're going to pull an online report. So actually, we're going to get the data report points here, and we're going to download these reports locally. into the system. But you do have the option, as you can see there, to view the data online, but also we can make it consumable for download. And so you can see here the job status is currently queued, and the console interacts with you very well in that way. So it doesn't take, a lengthy training to really get up to speed on the functionality, because literally it's a scan, it's a credential scan, and then reporting. So it's very, very easy to navigate and really enable professional services to be effective. So right here, as you can see in the report, we already have the host name, we have the IP address, we know what port was being used, what remote host was being contacted, what program was being used, what was the count of the amount of connections, what application was being used, what path to the application. So most people fail to realize in complex heterogeneous environments, you have a lot of homegrown applications that are using Java EXE, for example. Well, that Java EXE is really not definitive on what kind of application you're running. It's an Java app, but what Java app? I'm running millions of them. So in this case, by drilling down to the path of the application, we're able to tell you exactly what application is actually being used and allow you to be effective in planning your migration and transformation and consolidation to AWS. So that's critical. That's very critical. So like I said, this is the raw data points, and this will allow you to, really get down in the weeds. And not only that, if you can see here, it tells you what port is being used. That was critical in the AWS transformation for Delaware North, because their environment was very complex, went into a virtual private cloud, and they had to build security groups. This was critical. This allowed them to really understand how the data path was really working and how they needed to configure their security groups, which is high-level architecture. When you're really getting into the DevOps scenarios and being effective, those details are extremely important. So that was one of the ways we enabled Delaware North and the AWS Professional Services team in that regard. So as I mentioned, this is the raw data points in a CSV output. We also have multitudes of other different outputs, and right now we're going to show what the inventory report looks like. So the inventory report, once again talks about the important things on each server. What operating system? What's the name? Where is it registered? How much memory is being allocated? Is it a physical? Is it a virtual? Those are all critical data points, because how do you scale, how you build the future state if you don't know what you currently have infrastructure-wise? So that's very important. Also, what packages are installed? What applications are installed? Are they compatible? Can they run in the cloud? All of that is informational. What account security groups? What groups are created on the system? How can we duplicate that for future state? So whether you're going to migrate in a lift and shift fashion, or if you're going to build out a new infrastructure from scratch, those things are critical, right? Because you need to be able to understand what you currently have in your environment. Here's a Windows server as well that was identified. It's blurred out for confidentiality's sake, as you can see, but Windows 2003 in this case, and you can see all the data points, IP address, subnet mask, disk sizes. Once again, how do you plan for future state if you don't know where you currently are? So this is all very critical information. So the infrastructure is one of the key components of our collection, right? It's not the only thing, but it's very important. So what does ATAvision provide you with? Infrastructure details. It provides you with, the performance details, and we're going to touch on that right now. So in addition to looking at the infrastructure details, now we can tell you how your current server infrastructure is performing in the current state. So this is twofold. It allows you to scale out for future state, but it also allows you to set a baseline on how you're performing now and how impact of the AWS transformation really is making in your environment, right? So you're going to be able to leverage the scalability, the efficiency, the infrastructure of AWS, the powerful infrastructure of AWS, and now you'll be able to see how your workload is performing from current environment to your future state environment. So those are some critical points. And here's memory as well. Those are critical components when you're looking at sizing, not just from an infrastructure perspective, but also from future state. And this is another server looking at its process, how is it working, when is it peaked, How many times it's reached maximum load? What is the average load? All those data points, as I mentioned, are critical. Right now, when you're looking at our pre-migration checklist, so what does this look like? This is a side-by-side server. What type of server? Physical, virtual, when the system booted last. All those are important because you want to know the healthy state of your environment. If it's been 2-3 years since your server rebooted, it may be something you want to consider before doing any type of migration activities. What system model? In this case, we're identifying some hardware. Well, what are we going to do? We're going to virtualize it? Are we going to migrate it? Are we going to rebuild? All of these dates, right? OS versions. Is this version supported? This is Red Hat 4, Red Hat 6, Windows 2003. So this is really all important data that you can sit down with the customer and really understand what you have. And this is, like I said, a side-by-side view. And then how do you want to scale future? What are your cores, your current cores? How much CPU? What do you want to do for future state? Right here, these are all the application stack. What's your current application stack looking like? What is your disk subsystems looking like? What is your storage requirements? All of these things, when you're looking at utilizing and and maximizing your AWS advantage, what do you want to do for your disk? Are you going to put some in Glacier? Are you EC2? There's a lot of options here. This is how you really define and really enable your customer to really maximize that advantage. So these reports, as I mentioned, these are, readily available, downloadable, available online in the technology, very easy to get to, right? You just hit the reports tab and hit, select your servers and you're off, right? Your data points are there. So here's another interesting thing. So, and Anya mentioned this earlier, how do we make this consumable? A lot of folks, the spreadsheet look is very, technical and folks like to get down in the trenches. But a lot of times at a high level, how do these applications look? How do they interact? How do I build move plans? How do I present this to our end customer? Well, Visio is a very powerful tool, but you really need to understand the data points to really go to produce those reports. What the Vision product has done is really simplified that. So now you're able to generate these reports in a snap, in a second. So this is not a time-consuming, 20 hours, 30 hours straight overnight of Visio production. This is actually done for you. So in this case, we're looking at a server dependency view. This is just infrastructure. How are these servers communicating? Look at it right here. You hit the server dependency view, and voila, there you have it. You are looking at an architecture diagram that has been just produced for you. So you have visuals that are consumable for the application owners, C-level executives, folks that really want to really have a visual representation of what my environment looks like. And even still, we give you the opportunity to drag, drop, create, and build the images according to how your style or, the way you normally produce these documents. So it's very flexible in that format. And so this was just an infrastructure view. As I mentioned, you can export it. You can also create move groups, and we'll talk a little bit about that towards the end. So here's the other view. This is the application view. And this is, this is really the meat and potatoes of what transformation really is. I think what's really been a conversation is a popular term is the application as a network. So what we really have done is providing an application-centric view of your infrastructure. So when you're doing transformation, everyone is saying, I'm moving apps. You're not moving infrastructure. Well, here you are for everyone to see all the middleware, all the applications, right here for you. You can just select them, and immediately you're looking at building out, visualization of your application in your environment. So these are all the applications we collected, and so all the data points we've acquired, and now look how easy it is. You select the application, and voila, once again, you will obviously see the visualization of this application in the environment simply by picking on the view application dependency, and then the image is right there for you. So the nights of, building the infrastructure, building out these plans, building out these complex diagrams that take, that may be inaccurate. Well, this is 100% truth, right? So that's the beauty of automation. We've eliminated human error, but we've also facilitated massive scale and proficiency because all of this is done in hours versus days and weeks and months. And that's a huge give back to your customer. So let's look at this. Let's go a little further. If you notice on the left-hand side, now you see red. What red signifies is we're taking this a little bit deeper. And let me pull back here again. We're taking this a little bit deeper. We're going to map the third level application flow. So we're going to continue to dig deeper into the infrastructure. So we're going to check that box again, hit view dependency, and then you'll see some red. So now we've gone not just the first level, not just the second level, but another stage of how this application is actually trickling into the environment and cascading so that, the application. So if you look at here, we picked the blue server as an example. I'll go back to it 1 second more. We picked the blue server as an example. And that blue server, in this case, once we map it, is not the initiating communication. That blue server is actually in progress being talked to prior to by beginning of the application. So by going to that third level, we've realized that that server is really getting input into that conversation. Now here's one of the highlights, I think, of our technology. One of the enhancements. What we discussed with our customers is that they loved our wave plans. They loved our affinity maps. But they always came back to us and said, can you add this report? We love this report. We love this about your product, but we want to add this functionality. But how do we get this report? And then, of course, they would have to open a ticket. We would create it for them. We've now introduced our custom report view, allows the customer to create the reports they want on demand. That is very powerful because every engagement is a snowflake. Every application is a snowflake. So you're essentially allowing and empowering your professional services team to really drill down into the client environment and really dig out the important aspects of this transformation, this planning, and possibly uncover some loopholes or some mines in the field, because these custom reports allow you to pull off any single attribute you were collecting. So you can see as you scroll through, CPU count, every little attribute, every port, every memory, every little aspect of this environment is searchable, collectible, and presentable in a format that's consumable. So this is extremely powerful. We're really excited about this feature that we're going to really push to our customers and really enable them to really maximize efficiency and transform to AWS. So as you can look here, we run this query, we hit next, and once again, there's more operations here that you can actually select from. It's very detailed. And once we produce this report, we have the ability, as you can see on the left-hand side, to save this. So once your team starts to develop and really understand the power behind the ATAvision product, they really can start enabling and sharing it with other teams, whatever reporting that they feel are effective. And then, of course, this really transforms your practice and it really enables this type of activity to transform into the environment. And this is something you can export this query. As I mentioned, save it. And, of course, it'll start building out. As you can see here, these are some of the outputs. These are the servers that met that criteria. And then they were able to nail down and drill down into these servers and really get an understanding of what may be some problematic workloads during the transformation effort. So this is real powerful. Just like to reiterate that and the importance. And as I touched on, this is how simple it is to save this and make this report a repeatable report that you want to keep in your holster, so that you can enable your team to continue to produce things that you think are critical to your efforts. So, all right, so as we go through here, you can see here we're back on the main screen, and there it is, all the data points that we discussed, all the data points we collected, the ATAvision module has summarized. So you got a pretty good view In addition to what you already know, it's right in front of you. So it's Braille candid, and you can see what servers may, be oversubscribed, undersubscribed, what the application usage is, what network activity trending. Just a really highly usable dashboard that, allows you to get a snapshot of what your transformation potentially roadmap looks like in the obstacles in front of you. So here's the other capability we touched on in move plans. So once we've identified all the servers, we've identified all the assets, how do we move them? How do you build out a strategy? Well, we give you an opportunity, and we haven't touched on the second part of our technology. We're focusing more on the Vision product today, but it allows you to build move plans that allow you to effectively migrate with our Motion product. So Motion is our migration technology that is integrated with our Vision product, but it's sold separately as an add-on module. So right here, if you look here, right here, the group name is created. You can move massive amounts of servers at one time, depending on your capabilities and bandwidth. And right there, the total asset is a very important piece. So it tells you how big this group is, what do you need to scale for in the target environment to support this, how much compute do you need to get, and that all enables you in your planning effort. So if you do not emphasize, if you do not use the migration Motion product, just really focus on Vision today, or have other means of migrating, whether through lift and shift or even DevOps, at least in this case, you'll understand moving this compute, this is how much you need to provision, this is how much you need to anticipate for your future state based on your current specifications and current capabilities. So to me, this is also, very a very intuitive view and very easy to really enable your team to be successful. And right here you can see you can save the group, and then you can automatically migrate the group if you have the ATAvision module with the Vision product. As of this time, I think this is the end of the video for me. I think if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. I think I'm going to turn this all over to Scott, and Scott will talk a little bit more about AWS and how enlighten us on some of the services